Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. Happy Friday, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about Legends figures. Are they taking away market share from Masterpiece? Is this going to affect Masterpiece? And are Masterpiece collectors jumping into Legends? I'm going to talk about this. I've talked about bits and pieces of this, but I'm going to put it all in one video today. We're going to discuss this. We're going to discuss figures that are either out or coming out that hold their own against Masterpiece for Legends scale. And then we're going to get into whether it really does hurt the Masterpiece market coming up. It's ironic that the first Legends video that I made was talking about all of the negatives of Legends. And then, of course, it was supposed to be a joke saying, but now I'm going to collect it anyway. So, didn't really work very well. Comedy wasn't my thing back then. It's a lot better now. But looking at this, the first reason people jump ship from Masterpiece and go to Legends is space. This picture here depicts over 20 Legends figures that are displayed very well. You can see all of them. Very nice display. This was one of the submissions, I think, on my 11,000 subscriber special. And what I want to point out is that if you were to take all these out and try to display a Masterpiece display, you might get 6, 7, possibly 8 figures displayed well. Of course, you could cram in a whole bunch, but would it be displayed this well? Could you display as many as well? No. The space is becoming an issue. It's becoming an issue for me. It's an issue for a lot of collectors. And that is the very first reason why people jump ship from Masterpiece and go to Legends. The next reason is the price. Now, generally, Legends are a quarter of the size of Masterpiece and about half the price. So that was kind of one of my very early points was, yeah, it's a quarter of the size, but only half the price, not the value. But people get out of the value. What they're getting out of it is the same feels they get from their Masterpiece collection, except they're spending less, and I understand that, well, a lot more now than I did back then. These Legends combiners are running approximately $250 when Masterpiece ones are $400 and up. $400 and up because we don't know what the end price on Fans Toys will be. We only know what the end price on X-Transbots, DX9, and all of those. So with that, more or less $600 when you come to a Minosaur nowadays. So with that, it's still pushing around the half the price or so of the counterparts in the Masterpiece. So in general, not looking at combiners, just looking at individual figures. Generally, you're looking at a figure that costs $50 to $60, maybe $70, whether it's Magic Square, whether it's the EX painted version from New Age and all of that, versus $200 from either Fans Toys or in some cases maybe $130 from X-Transbot. So you still are getting quite a good value, a much cheaper figure. But then of course when you factor in mainline is even cheaper than that, well, that's a discussion we're not going to have today. So values in the eye of the beholder, $70, $75 for these two figures. So that makes them roughly $37.50 a piece, something along that line. And with that, do you view that as a great value, seeing as how if you try to get a Masterpiece one, it's probably going to run close to $100 nowadays. The next reason is Legends figures scale very well with Titan class. We just had a Titan class conversation yesterday, for better or for worse, for good or bad, or however you want to view yesterday's discussion. We had that, and Legends accent city bots. And yes, the Ark's not really a city bot, and yes, people point out that Omega Supreme's not really a city bot, but they're Titan class figures, and they look so much bigger next to Legends figures versus mainline figures, and definitely much bigger than versus Masterpiece figures. So a lot of people do get into Legends, and some people just accent their figures, get a few for their shelf, and others go all in, 100% in Legends, and still get the Titans. So the next reason people like Legends so much, and this is a big one, is quick character development. So you've got a smaller figure, more space, you've got a lower price, and you can get more figures, more characters represented more quickly. Instead of buying one $220 figure, you can more or less buy every single Headmaster all at once and a few other figures on the side. They've already dialed out the Headmasters in one shot. You can get this in one shot, more or less, and you've got the whole team. We're still waiting for maybe years, maybe a half of a decade to finish this out in the Masterpiece scale. See, also I want to point this out, and I've said it several times in the past, but McFan's Toys is a wild card in Legends. This is one of those where you have Magic Square and New Age battling each other by trying to make the same figures, and it really gets frustrating when you're looking at, say, Fans Toys Next Transbots trying to make the same figures, or Fans Toys trying to overshadow everybody at the same time. But with this, McFan's Toys doesn't care what anyone else is doing, except for when it's time for them to KO oversize it. But they do their own thing for the most part. Now, I believe these originally were DX9s. I do want to point that out. But a lot of other ones they made were their own design. And for the most part, McFan's Toys does scale well with both McFan's Toys and Magic Square stuff. And the next thing I want to say is, we're seeing a giant leap in Legends. It's just phenomenal how much better these designs are. And really, the Cyclonus stands out as a shining star in Legends. It's going to be amazing. Hopefully, I don't build it up too much in my head and then get disappointed. But the engineering, the design, the aesthetic of these figures, and the paint, which could be a whole other conversation, which we've already had in a way, but the paint on Legends now, that used to be what held Legends back. They were just bare plastic. But New Age is doing paint, Magic Square is doing paint, and here we go with another New Age, and that just looks great. All these figures are looking amazing. Now, I will also point out, when you look at design, because we are talking about design, more advanced design that could be on par with Masterpiece in a way, Legends still get a bit of a pass on the design. So they're not going to have articulated fingers. They're not going to have quite as many super small folding panels because it is a small scale, and that microscopic panel, we can't do that with our figures. We can't fold all them little microscopic panels. But if it's blown up, like this exact figure was made into a Masterpiece, there's going to be a few more panels added to make it more on the scale of Masterpiece. But then again, that's not what's happening right here, because this is Legends. Magic Square is killing it with designs, and these designs look so good and rival Masterpiece, which is going to be a bit of the next part of this discussion, is which ones of these rival Masterpiece hold their own to Masterpiece, and which ones of these would you like to see made into Masterpiece. I mean, I've had that conversation quite a few times, but let's take a look at these. So this is where the fun begins, and looking at this, in the middle is Toy World's Devi. Masterpiece scale, Toy World Devi was and is still the king of what's going on. Now, there's also another company making what looks like it's a KO oversize of the New Age in the Masterpiece. But that when that company actually comes out, we can order it. We'll find out if that's really going to work out and all that kind of stuff. But right now, Toy World wins. Toy World is winning. But you look at the ones on the left and the right. The left is New Age. The right is Magic Square. And if they were all Masterpiece scale, which one would you rather have on your shelf? Which one do you think looks the best? Which one has a better aesthetic? Which one is cleaner, smoother, looks more like G1? Now, I personally like the one on the right, which is the Magic Square. I kind of go for those designs. I really feel like the New Age one's a little thin. But then when I start looking at animation stills, Devastator was actually pretty thin in the cartoon. So New Age might actually be even closer to it. But I do favor the style and the design that Magic Square goes with on the right. So it's still up to you. There are two great options out there, and they run about $250 or so per set, something like that, something along those lines, $250 or so per set. But it's still like now $600 something to get a Toy World Devi. So next up, we're going to look at Soundwave and Magic Square Soundwave on the right, and then the Robot Paradise Acoustic Wave on the left, which is Fans Toys. And looking at these, they both look great. I mean, stylistically, they both work. They both work well, and they both work very similarly. Now, the thing is that for whatever reason, Magic Square never offered this with the enhanced paint. They offered it with a painted version, but it wasn't very good. It was back when they still weren't doing good paint. I think that what's going on is Magic Square was using the cheapest paint possible and not a high-end premium paint like they're starting to use now. So if they were to do another one of this figure with a high-end premium paint, I'd be all over it in a heartbeat because I think they have the best designs. So, but looking at them side by side, look at the design and tell me what you think. Are they very similar? In this case, it was literally a quarter of the cost of Robot Paradise. Next, we're looking at Ultra Magnus, and you can see in the middle of this is the Takara Ultra Magnus, which Since it came out, I felt like it was a bit too bulky for its own good, and there's some flaws with the butt flap, not a hip flap, and a few other design flaws. Obviously, we're going to be getting better iterations in Masterpiece soon, but this is where it still stands today. And look at them side by side. On the right, we have Magic Square. On the left, we have the New Age version. A lot of people say New Age is the best. I have the Magic Square one, and I like it, and it has its flaws too. But as a bot standing on my shelf, I think it still looks great, and I still like the way it looks better than Takara. So I can see where a lot of these people that are in Legends are in Legends. And yes, I know, I just had this comparison not too long ago, the Megatron versus Megatron. So Takara's MB36 is still a great figure, and it looks very nice. It has its flaws too, but I think Magic Squares looks really good also. And I also had a premium paint job version. They've had several different versions of theirs, but it looks great also. And so with that, this is where I think Magic Square holds its own, but this cleans up so much better in the back. So it shows the engineering, it shows the price, it shows the scale and everything that these Legends collectors that jump ship from Masterpiece. This is why. This really is why. So Mike, why are you talking about Legends again when you're supposed to be talking about Masterpiece on Fridays? Masterpiece is my favorite. I just really enjoy Masterpiece scale because of the size and the presence and all of this, but Legends copying Masterpiece and just making it on a smaller scale, it's very impressive. It really is very impressive. And how you can dial out a display like this, here in a couple of years, you'll be able to dial out a display that looks every bit as good as this with Legends figures, including paint. Now we're getting into that last conversation we had about Oversaturated Market, where there are so many options out there and not very many collectors buying them up. In fact, it seems like, where did Transformers Masterpiece collectors go? There's so much stuff available to be bought that's in stock right now, pre-orders coming up, and all of that. And so how does that affect the future? Well, if more collectors jump ship from Masterpiece and go to Legends, then less stuff's going to be getting bought up, and down the road, we could see either less stuff get produced or less stuff become available, less options, less companies with their hand in the pie as the pie gets a lot smaller. So let me know what you think about this. Are you one of those collectors that jumped ship from Masterpiece to Legends? Are you considering this? Are you like me that like Masterpiece the most and dabble in Legends a bit, because that's kind of what I've been doing lately? Or are you one that doesn't ever want to touch a Legends figure, not even to accent your city bots or accent your larger figures? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Hanger out.